always, basically. But, excuse me. Hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, good times, whatever time it is, wherever you are listening, possibly from your house. Joined with me, as always, Mr. Chris Cute.
How you doing?
And Mr. Jamie Page.
How you doing?
Jamie's our regular overachiever, sitting there pretty in tier 4.
With 100% attendance.
Are you and the rest of your neighbourhood going to try for level 5, or you sort of?
Hopefully not. I think we're probably happy where we are. Oh, I am.
Or not happy where you are. I think.
Or not happy. Or not happy.
I don't know about happy, but okay, you are where you are. So hey, we'll make the best of it, right?
Talking of happy, actually, and that's a good segue, because do you know what makes people happy? Finding out about new. Well, probably not. But as part of this podcast, that they might be happy about is learning about new cool stuff or new cool people. And if you didn't already know, you probably should do if you've listened to the podcast for more than one episode. As always, tonight's show is brought to you in part by Yorkshire Grit, the Woodturners Abrasive Paste, our good friend Chad at Mancrafting, Pam from Highland Boxes, and Steve from Harneal Media. These guys and girls support this podcast. If you want to find out more about these individuals, groups, and products, head on over to the website, makeinternationalpodcast.com/sponsors, and all the information is on there.
And they are all super cool. They
absolutely are. Really, really nice people, and they do cool stuff. So, go and check them out. Jamie normally kind of takes credit for the podcast website, but just listen back to a few podcasts and you'll kind of find out that that's just not true. So,
There's a kind of hush all over the world.
Go right the way back to the very start of this podcast, and you see I've been taking this kind of stuff for about 4 years.
but if you come forward about a year, it kind of peters out a little bit, and we sort of get to a level.
That's why I said 4 years.
God, it's like a million years.
You gave it a rest for a year.
Richard, we've almost started treating him as a human. It's
almost.
Next episode, we'll actually be letting him out into the wild.
With this beard.
That's the Mutual of Omaha and Marlon Perkins thing. We're now watching Jamie walk out into the wild for the first time.
You can just imagine the truck kind of backs up into the field with a big crate on it, and then the crate just gets pushed off the back, and the guys run away, open the door from a distance with a stick, and out rolls Jamie.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm just waiting for
with this beard. I'm waiting to be released.
Yeah. You're the new American version of Grizzly Adams with that damn thing.
I was going to say, with that beard, you look like you should be captured.
Yeah, you need a grizzly bear. Anyway. Gentlemen, topic tonight. You guys want to talk about tool evolution. Quite honestly, I'm not sure where to go from this. Because, I know it was the topic that you guys had both said, oh, yeah, we could do it. And I didn't have a clue. So I'm taking a back seat to this one. I think it was Jamie's idea. So, Jamie, if you want to get us started, go for it.
Basically, I wanted to kind of talk about kind of where did we all kind of start from when it comes to tools, like using flints, like the Middle Ages, the Egyptians, the Greeks, the Romans, to kind of where we are now with electric and batteries and all this lithium-ion batteries and plug sockets and all this kind of sort of stuff, like kind of the process of how we got there, so that's
So are you looking at this from you've mentioned the Greeks and then the kind of the Middle Ages, etc. Are you literally looking at that whole spectrum, or was there anything sort of?
It's kind of
not really. Just go back as far as we can remember. Like obviously you got the Tarzan people were using sticks
and banging things together with rocks. But I think what he just described was the historical perspective.
Yeah, as far back as people you can think of,
as far as the evolution goes. And it's like people pounding in a nail with a stone. But first they had to come up with the nail. And so you start walking into that kind of quandary. So maybe we should bring this a little more 20th, 21st century and talk about the evolution of the tools that you and I currently use. Because there's a lot of hand tool woodworkers out there that still use pedal-powered lathes and things of that nature. And just because they find the enjoyment in it. But if you're going to bring it into the height of technology of where we are today, then maybe we should talk about where we were compared to where we can be today. It would narrow the focus, is what I'm saying.
I mean, just from the point of view of, the old school hand tool woodworking. I mean, my kind of, I kind of snoozed, if I'm honest. I was like, I've got time for using hand tools. But my ears kind of pricked up, Chris. I'll be honest. Is when you said about first finding nails, but actually before that, it was basically wooden pegs.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
So have you guys seen or heard of that? I can't remember what the series. Basically, over in France, this is or was, or I think probably still is. They were doing a 25-year long. So just kind of get your head around that for a minute. What's the term for these kind of archaeology people who do like actual real? They go and dress up as cavemen and sit in a hollowed out tree stump and live and work it out for themselves, kind of like real life archaeology, or there's
stoners.
No.
People are like getting really high, or what?
No. There's like a
hippie.
No. Somebody out there, somebody intelligent in the lot. There's people listening to this. I'm
not saying it's not intelligent. I'm just saying.
But no, I was saying you were unintelligent, Chris. Let's just hang on.
Okay. Thank you.
No, there's like an actual term. I think it's an actual career where people who are archaeologists,
reenactors.
No, not even reenactors. It's kind of a blend of the two. So they literally.
I tried.
Somebody in
living archaeology.
Is that what it's called?
I don't know.
Let's. It's going to frustrate me now. But they're archaeologists, but their focus in archaeology is not on their hands and knees with a worn-out trowel scraping at the soil. It's actually trying to make a Roman pot using Roman technology. Yeah? They'll actually do it for real, in inverted commas. So what they're doing is a 25-year long project. They are building a medieval castle from scratch using the same techniques and technology of the day, down to the fact that the place they've picked in France was where you'd pick to build a castle. Anyway, moving along, blah, 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 they're building this castle, and all the kind of wooden aspects to it, like the internal structure, the very little nails go into it, like the doors. They've got these huge solid. No,
that's fine. That's fine. But how does that relate to the evolution of tools?
Because if you're using if you're not using nails, right, you don't need a metal hammer. If you're using wooden pegs, you need a wooden mallet. Do you see what I mean? So there's a sort of an evolution in that tool and the way that those things are put together.
So I didn't think we were going to go back this far. I thought we were talking more recent, but I mean, okay, Richard.
It was just that kind of aspect to it. I literally found it fascinating, not because it's interesting for the sake of it, but it makes me where I am today with power tools and batteries and mains cables and all that kind of thing. It makes you kind of not just not from the appreciation of how little time it takes comparatively. It gives you there's a way around this. If somebody did this same thing, people had doors 200 years ago.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? It's like the two linked together kind of a.
All right. Well, let's bring this forward to the 1900s, so we can talk about the 20th century and work into the 21st century. The 19th century was a part of probably the tail end of, and I don't know because my history on this subject is not that well. So somebody out in the chat can correct me. But it was kind of on the tail end of. Well, I take it back. It was part of the industrial age where things became more machinery than they did worker. You follow me? There was tools that were being made for production purposes. It means they were thinking about making and manufacturing tools that would work faster and work more efficiently. And that's when the evolution of from hand tools to power tools began. And it's kind of like, and it's progressed since there. So if we want to talk about the evolution of tools, let's start there. And I'll let Jamie continue, or Richard, whoever wants to, from that starting point, rather than wondering who forged the first peg.
Yeah, I guess that's where like you said a little bit earlier on, that's where you get like the pedal lathe, the pedal scroll saw, or foot pedal scroll saw. Then obviously you got the hand planes, the different kinds of the countless different saws and planes and chisels and all that kind of stuff. Mallets of different shapes and sizes and weights and all that kind of stuff. That's when all that kind of stuff comes into play, and everyone has their own little wooden tool box that they all have to carry around, and axes, I guess.
Do you think that there's a kind of a side effect or a kind of a negative side to evolution of tools as well?
No, I don't, and I'll tell you why. Because if you are a maker, and if you are into things, and you are aware of the old school methods of doing things and how to employ them, and if you take the time to actually invest in both genres, whether it's hand tool working or total machinery working, then you have the ability to do pretty much anything. So no, I don't think there is. I mean, I still own a block plane, I still own a hand plane, but I have an electric planer, and I would love to have an electric joiner, but I still have hand tools that will do the job. I know how to use both, and so I don't think it's a hindrance. I think it's a more encompassing knowledge and toolbox to have as a maker.
Do you think? I mean, because the reason I asked that was I was thinking you're talking about new tools coming along, and I'm thinking like lasers and CNC stuff and all the rest.
Right.
Not
that's a great way we can finish this conversation today. Is with that.
I mean, it doesn't actually have to be like a spirit level. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Sure. So let's say you because you're talking about knowing how to use a block plane and knowing how to use the other things. But let's say do you not think that there's a I wonder sometimes if there's a kind of a skill loss on that's sort of a negative side effect of anything evolving.
You know what? No. You see, and this is where I think people get things confused. And I'll be honest with you. I understand the heritage woodworkers, but if there's a skill loss, it's because the technology has taken over, and you better catch the wave or you're going to be left on the sand. And I'm sorry, as hard as that is for a lot of people to swallow and gulp, it's the friggin' truth.
Yes, and that I agree with. But do you think that because of that, there is a negative aspect?
Oh, I think so.
Because I'm thinking a spirit level. If I'm working and I drop my spirit level and it buckles and bends, it's useless. I've got to go and buy a new spirit level.
Right.
So potentially I could have to completely stop what I'm doing, or it could be a square. I've got my big framing square, drop it off a scaffold, or I leave it, and the wife comes in and treads on it, and it's knackered, and you've got to stop. Yeah. But do you?
No, you don't.
But no, you don't, because you can use Pythagoras, you can use simple 3-5-4 rule, you can use all kinds of things which were the everyday. That's how they made the pyramids. Same with the spirit level. Hanging wallpaper. You drop your spirit level off the step ladder. The wife comes in, kicks it across the room. It's buckled. It's knackered. How do you get your wallpaper straight? Plumber.
Yeah.
Do you see what I mean?
Where
Things were once an everyday. Just like us, we have a spirit level. All right. Before.
I think it has a lot to do with people's comfort, and being who I am, and being the guy who's not on Instagram, being the guy who's kind of resistant to change myself. I can see why. I think a lot of this has to do with resistance to change. It's because you're looking at a lot of people who don't want to learn anything new because they know what they know so well. They don't want to have to learn more. It's like I'm a master craftsman at this. I don't want to go and learn that because I no longer will be a master craftsman at that. So it's a hindrance. I think I don't. Could we call it?
I think it necessarily.
I don't think it is. It ego? Is it ego? I mean, is it just a matter of ego and stature? I mean, how do people feel about that? Is it because they feel emboldened by hanging on to the past, or is it because they feel like they have control of this certain universe, but once you go outside that universe, they feel uncomfortable? I mean, I don't know, and I don't want to ridicule or downplay anybody who has the feelings, because there are people who actually have true love for the craft that they've learned, and I applaud them. I'm not trying to ridicule them at all. I'm just saying the protagonists in this story tend to be the ones that kind of bring everybody else back and make them go, why are you so resistant to change? I mean, what's the deal?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't necessarily looking at it from the angle of, we all know, we've all heard those, and we've all talked about before, actually, the kind of the CNC isn't woodworking and the old ways and all the rest of it. And I'm not promoting any one side of this. I'm deliberately kind of trying to answer every question with a question. But if it's going to Chris, originally you were talking about the need for efficiency and process, and the turn of the century and mass production and all that kind of thing.
Right.
I think for me personally, all these reiterations and evolutions of I mean, let's take a scroll saw. We'll pick on Jamie again. Why not? Let's never change the habit of a lifetime. But you've got a coping saw, yeah, and then you've got a scroll saw.
Someone said, let's put a machine on it.
I mean, anything. You go to the cotton mills of Manchester in 1870. All these mills were put next to streams because somebody went, you know what, that water that's kind of doodling down there,
flowing, yeah.
We can utilize and harness the power of that, of water, with a big wheel. And someone went, we just connect that up to a load of belts. And then some dude went, I can use magnets and wires and like jerry rig my entire house. There's a house in, I can't remember the name of the house, but there's a house here in England that's just a single house that the guy has completely, or had it back in the 1900s. He just set up his own hydroelectric power plant to power his house. And people in the mills did the same thing. So you've gone from water power, water wheels, electric motors, all for the efficiency and mass production, and you connect that to any machine going, and all of a sudden you've got an entire revolution on your hands. And you do the same with a scroll saw. You take that guy in his back garden with a scroll saw, with a coping saw, cutting out jigsaws for the kids in the street. So a mass produced industry.
I think the way to and if you guys want to continue on, then feel free. But I think the way to wrap this conversation up is to say that as technology moves forward, so does humanity. And I hate to say this, but with the invent of CNCs and lasers and machinery of that type, is the hand carver's time on this planet over?
No,
I don't know.
I don't think so.
I don't
Not
think
by a
so.
long shot.
I don't think
There's
so.
always going to be a place.
Well, wait. I don't think so either. But I think if it becomes a job, or if you were trying to make money from it, there's no doubt that the machinery can outproduce you. It can outproduce. I mean, you are going to have a hard time doing things by hand and trying to compete in the market. It's that whole IKEA thing where somebody goes, I can go to IKEA and buy it for $200, but you're telling me if you hand make it, it's going to cost me $400. Finding your market in a lot of these areas where technology starts to exceed is going to be increasingly harder as time moves forward. And eventually, I don't think that things will die. I never think that, because everybody's going to hold on to the craft. But I do think that it's going to diminish as far as being something that you want to do as a money-making adventure.
I think all you've got to do is turn around and say to them is, all right, for every 6 IKEA beds that you want to buy, I can make you one good one for $400.
Right.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean that's again that CNC machine, and I'll use that example because that's what we were talking about in the sense of production. Absolutely. I mean, I personally don't see any difference between that hand tool carver, with lots and lots of hand chisels.
And trust me, I admire that man more than I do the CNC operator. I personally do. That's my opinion.
Or the operator of a CNC. They are both skilled individuals.
Yes, they are
skilled in two different things. That's like trying to compare a very good doctor with a very good bridge builder, or a very good dentist with a very good farrier. They are both skilled, but they're different things.
Good point. I stand corrected. You're right.
Yeah, I don't. Would there be? I mean, I think there's always going to be a place for. I mean, again, keeping with the carver, or even the scroll sawer. The guy in the kind of cottage industry.
And I'm talking more business, Richard, than I am anything else. I'm talking more competitive and in the business world than I am, home hobbyists, because home hobbyists can continue the craft however they like because they're not dependent on the money they bring in from it. I'm talking about more of the person who wants to do it for a living, and how much more competitive it will become facing the technology that there is today.
Hang on, I'm gonna.
Can I just quickly bring up, let's say someone that's like subject to the rule, if you like.
All right,
so you've got James Wright, Wood by Wright. He went in totally the opposite direction.
I agree.
He started off with power tools, and now he's all hand planes and no power, zero power, totally. And he seems to be loving life.
I like James. I like James a lot.
He does some great stuff.
No, he does some great stuff. And you know what? It's always cool to go back. That's what I'm saying. There's always going to be that the home person or the person who's not looking to, outside of what, James may make on YouTube. And I'm sure James doesn't make his fortune on YouTube. I mean, nobody does. I mean, I doubt Jimmy DeResta does. But I mean, I'm just saying there's notoriety that can come with what you do, but there's also a skill that all of us will certainly maintain if we embrace the hand tool, the old ways of doing things, because I've found that even with new technology, the old ways of doing things can actually enhance that even more. And look, we all have power sanders at some point, but at some point in time, you're going to pick up a piece of sandpaper and you're going to sand it by hand. It's just going to happen.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what kind of power sander you have, you're going to need your hand on a piece of sandpaper to do it the way it was done 300, 400, 500 years ago. It's just there's a way to incorporate all that. Anyway, we've got some questions tonight. You guys want to get into the questions?
So I do. I absolutely do. But I would be remiss if I let this go, Chris. So just bear with me, because you were talking about the wood carving and the commercialization and all the rest of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it reminded me of a little clip. It was like a little B-roll side story in a series that used to run in the UK, and I can't remember the name of the series, so I apologise for that. But it was on one of the Discovery channels. It didn't really air for very long, and they used to have like these little side stories. And this particular side story was about a guy who was a carver, and during that clip, he was carving a kestrel or a hawk or an eagle or some kind of bird of prey, like holding sitting on something. Yeah, that kind of mental image. And this is what I've been looking for. And the guy's name, because I've just found it on basically, I'm still trying to find it I'm doing it on my phone and it's not particularly quick. But this guy got into Ian Brennan. This is the guy's name. He got into wood carving as a hobby, to pass the time and to kind of get on and do things. He completely learnt it. He is now he's now considered, whether he considers himself a master carver, because that kind of label I know, grates on some people. Basically, this guy's made a business. He is now by appointment to several parts of the English royal family, and he works specifically in heraldic coats of arms. That's what he carves, and we're talking thousands of pounds per.
Oh no, and Richard, but I think the reality of this that I have to bring you back down to is that we can all aspire to achieve such heights, but very few of us ever get there.
Absolutely, but let's not forget that it's we always think of the kind of the hobby side of it. It's just for hobby. It's never going to lead, but it does for some people. It definitely does. So from that sort of, it's not really you can't really compete with. There's always going to be a market for the kind of.
No, I think you're right. And I've been the negative Nancy throughout this entire show today.
No, not at all. No.
I've been playing the devil's advocate, just trying to, I don't know, open people's eyes. Anyway, let's get to questions. We got questions. Second half of the show, because let's face it, we're 4 days away from Christmas Eve, so why shouldn't we address that? And Christmas, our questions. Sucks. No, I love Christmas. Christmas is probably tied for my favorite holiday, and I have a different holiday that I like just as much, but I won't go into.
My favorite holiday: 2 weeks in Disney. Oh, that's definitely my favorite. And the best thing, you can do it any time of the year. Normally, not this year, but any time of the year.
We should do 2 weeks in Disney at Christmas when COVID isn't happening, and then you'll be.
Do you know what we did 2 weeks just before Christmas last year, didn't we? We had the crossover from the Halloween into the Christmas, and that was pretty cool.
Okay.
Anyway, that's
yeah. Well, nobody cares.
Do you think Richard looks like Jafar?
And courtesy of our resident inquisitor. And Andy, I can't tell you how much we love you for giving us these every week. He has questions that he has to ask for you. And some of these are rather perplexing, but some of them are not so big. His first question, though, is if Santa could bring you any tool, Merry Toolmas, can we? What? I can't get any love for that, Merry Toolmas?
There's three of us. Anyway.
No love. Okay, well,
no love.
Merry Toolmas. If Santa could bring you any tool, what would it be?
I'm gonna say either a bandsaw or a pillar drill.
So either a bandsaw or a drill press.
See, Jamie's looking to step up in the world and move on from a little baby scroll saw and have a.
Do you have room? Jamie, I saw your.
I have now.
No, I saw
painted the walls white. It makes the room a bit bigger.
No, I saw your invasion with the Beard 16, and your shop does look very tidy and very nice. But do you actually have room for one of those?
So I only need a really small pillar drill because it can actually go on this cart that Mr. Huey Lionheart made me.
There you go, everybody.
So
put your money together.
I only really need it for. No, you don't need to do that. I only need to get it's more. It's from Screwfix.
I tell you what, Jamie. What you need to do, right? Because we've got a couple of days left, right? On your channel, start filming tonight because you've got all the lights and everything. Do a woodworkers Christmas gift video, and then in the links, along with all the Amazon affiliate links of all the stuff, put a link to like an Amazon wish, and someone will buy one for you. That's what
I'm not doing that.
No.
Small pillar drill there, and I'm gonna have a bandsaw up against this wall there. So,
where are you going to sit to do the podcast then?
And pray tell,
there's loads of room behind there.
And pray tell, and just Jamie, because I'm curious, and I don't want to carry on with this too much further than we have to.
And eventually, in the new year, there'll be a monitor over there, and there'll be a whole new computer set up in here.
Jamie, I don't care. I want to ask you What are you going to use the pillow drill in the bandsaw for? Do you have
a bandsaw is usually used for cutting, Chris.
No, but I mean,
a pillow drill is used for drilling.
Jamie wants to redecorate the bathroom, so he needs a bandsaw.
My question, you guys are both dicks. I swear to God, Jamie, I'm trying to ask you what on a regular basis would you use the drill press or pillar drill as you
right? So normally when I get maybe like big sheets of not huge sheets of plywood, now he
gets it and he quits being
I'll get it down, cut it down to like standard A4 sheets of paper sized plywood, or cutting pieces, or just restoring some stuff. And the pillar drill is when I do compound cuts on a scroll saw, it's got to be perfectly straight down.
Okay.
So that's another reason.
So you actually have a use for both of them, and they would stay in your shop and get used relatively often.
Yeah.
That's all I wanted. You guys didn't have to make fun of me. Richard, what about you?
I think for like any tool, so this is any tool, I would like one of those little. If it was any tool, can I have two? Not to like a choice, because I don't want to be greedy. You don't want to get a set. I want two tools, but one of two. Or could it probably just be one?
All right. Well, Jamie had two, so you can have two. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Why did I even ask? Jamie had two. I'm having two. So
one, you have three.
Because that's greedy. No one wants to be greedy, Jamie. Yeah.
I hate you all.
Anyway. Yeah, it would be one of those small desktop CNC mills, just the little tiny ones, not a massive one, just a small one, like the kind that does like about 8 or 9 inch square bed. You know the sorts, little desktop one with a little like a bit like the Carvey or the Trend CNC mill.
What would you use it for?
Machining aluminium. And soft metals, brass and aluminium. That's what I want to do it for. That's why I don't want a big one. I want just one that's just small, that I can just like 3D printer size, or one of Tony Relou's block planes.
Oh,
one of the two. That would be. I mean, if it's going to be a gift, it's going to be beautiful.
You know what? I have seriously almost opened my wallet for one of Tony Relou's block planes, but I know if I got it, it would be put on a shelf and I'd never use it. And I know that he doesn't want that to happen. He wants those planes to be used, but they are so freaking gorgeous that I would just like put that on up here and go. I would probably never use it, and that's not what he makes them for. So I've never done it. All right. Anyway,
I've got a Tony Relou square.
I bet yours is on because you've got like a little.
Mine's still in a box.
Yeah, and that's. I don't want people like emailing me hate emails now for saying this but I know for a fact Jamie's got like a little maker museum
collection.
Little maker tool shrine. It's a shrine basically, isn't it? It's not a collection.
Basically, at the moment, it's a drawer upstairs.
Yeah. And he's got the
bottom of his sock drawer.
He's got Tim Sway Square in there as well.
Yeah.
And I know that is a fact. Andy, to answer your question, if someone could bring me any tool, what would it be? I would appreciate an 8 or 12 inch jointer, because I currently don't have a jointer in my shop. And because if I'm going to continue making cutting boards for Jamie's channel, I have to have a jointer. Actually, I've never made a cutting board for Jamie's channel. That's just my joke. Anyway, what maker gift under 50 pounds or $60 if you're an American? Because let's be honest, I'm not going to go to that. Would you give a 12-year-old? What maker gift under 50 pounds or $60 would you give a 12-year-old? And Andy, I'm going to take this as saying is we're assuming that the 12-year-old has no major history of making, and we're also assuming that there's no fancy workshop already at home. So what kind of a 12-year-old? Now think about this, guys, because a 12-year-old's mindset, you get into it. What is it?
12-year-old a pain in the ass?
Well, no, and I'm not talking about a gift for it. He's talking about a specific. What maker gift would you give a 12-year-old?
A rotary tool.
A Dremel kind of thing.
Yeah, kind of thing, yeah.
Okay. Richard?
Lego. Always Lego.
Richard,
12-year-old Lego.
That's not a maker thing.
Absolutely, that's a maker thing. No, totally. That's like any kid, any human being, any primate-based species. Lego.
I think it loses because he said the question was, okay, whatever. All right, you know what? I'm gonna let you slide on that one.
Honestly,
no. You're fine.
Let me explain.
No. I'm not gonna. No, you don't have to. I get it. I understand. I was thinking more along the lines of tool.
I thought that was probably the case, and do you know what? I'd struggle to do at all because, well, Lego. Like honestly, I mean, and now that's all like when you can't see the wood for the trees. Now all I can see is Lego blocks. But honestly, it just encompasses absolutely everything. Because this could be a kid that's never not interested in woodwork, and even if you gave them like some specifically disciplined orientated, like general like woodworking, or you went, I don't know, paper crafting or model aeroplanes or plastic kits. If you kind of dial it in to a kind of a narrower field, you might not be able to it might be completely wasted, and then that person has got no interest in model kits or wood or metal, but Lego is just it can be about the thing that's finished. It could be Technic Lego, it could be just like Star Wars Lego, it could be because Lego's got like all those different
that's
franchise sets, hasn't it? You could be interested in the Big Bang Theory as a TV show, and you can get there, but it's about the making, and it might it's enjoyable for the little thing, but it could spark something and then take
and you're right, and I'm sorry because when that question was asked, I automatically thought tool, but it wasn't specifically about that. Andy, you win. I didn't think, but I'll tell you what my answer would be. For a 12-year-old. Now think about a 12-year-old. The 12-year-old is no longer a child. A 12-year-old is now thinking about next year I'll be a teenager. So a 12-year-old is automatically trying to get clued in. And if you don't understand a 12-year-old's mind, then go back in your own life when you were 12 years old and you go, those 9, 10-year-olds, those kids down there are kids, but the people ahead of you, those 13, 14, 15, 16-year-olds are like stars, and you're kind of caught in the middle. But 12 years old is kind of like caught in the middle of being a child and being a teenager, being all grown ups. And so the 12-year-old is constantly trying to become the 13-year-old. You follow me?
Yeah.
So
it's that kind of middle age that is. I'm too old for kid stuff. I'm old enough for, but everyone else says you're not old enough for.
So here's what I would do if I thought the person was inclined. I would probably buy them a cheap soldering iron and a Raspberry Pi starter kit.
That's a good idea.
Dale said that out in the chat.
Yeah, someone said Arduino, was it in the chat? I think I saw.
Oh, I would absolutely do that because at that age, they're going to want to be hip and they're going to want to be cool and they're going to be trying to doing things that are 21st century. And so, I think a Raspberry Pi starter kit with a soldering iron would put them on their path, and they would be happy doing it, and I think they'd appreciate it. You can't buy a 12-year-old a teddy bear and make them love it. You got to buy them something that seems kind of super cool, and a Raspberry Pi kit would be kind of cool for a kid that age. So, Andy, if you're looking, and Andy, I don't know if you were asking that question because you had a 12-year-old you had to buy for and you didn't know what to do.
Welcome, Andy. Welcome.
I have a funny feeling there was an ulterior motive behind that question, but that's my answer. And if you want to go from there, and knowing the teacher that you are, I think you're probably going to go, holy shit, good call. All right.
So
anyway,
there's a couple of comments from the chats. Dale says, eyes down with the kids in it. And Andy from AH Bespoke said that he got Luke that for Christmas this year. Built Mind. I don't know what the built mind is.
I don't know
maybe.
hey, hopefully it's your wife.
That's a good. I mean, there's so many cool things that you can do with.
It's creativity. It's just do what you want. Give the kid a chance to express their creativity, and I think you've got. Oops, excuse me. Wow, that was a bad one. And I think you got them hooked. Next question. Have you still got any tools that you were given for Christmas as a kid? And he says that he still has a fret saw that was part of a marquetry kit, among others. But do you have any tools that were ever given to you as a kid? Or did you ever get any tools that were given to you as a kid that you still have today just because, memories?
When I was maybe 11, 12, that sort of age, I had my own shed in the back garden, and my parents got me I remember it being a blue canvas bag, and it was like a starter carpentry set from a store in the UK called Argos.
Nice.
And it had like the basic mallet, chisels, screwdrivers, and things like that. So basically, I think the vast majority of that has probably disappeared, but I've still got a few screwdrivers hanging around. And the reason I know I've still got them screwdrivers hanging around is there used to be a thing in our family. I don't know how many other families do it, but because my dad and my granddad and all that lot, there was so many of them, they always used to put distinctive markings on their tools. Mm-hmm. Like my granddad would have, say, like you get the 1, 2, 3, 4, then cross it out to make a 5 on it. Mm-hmm. That's what his marking was on his tools, right? And then each of them, my dad would have a certain amount of markings. Well, I made my own markings on my tools just to be like them, right? And some of the screwdrivers have still got their markings on it. They're dirty and rusty, but they've still got their markings on it.
That's awesome. Do you ever use them?
No, they're actually in my dad's toolbox somewhere.
Oh, Richard, do you? What about you? Do you?
You know how sometimes you have these memories and they're so kind of disjointed and vague. You don't know whether they're actual memories from really, really young, or whether they're dreams, or whether it's like your interpretation of a story that somebody told you.
I do.
I've got that going on in my head. To picture that scene, I think as a kid, if it wasn't a present, it was something. It was a present for somebody else in the family, and it was I kind of inherited it. It might have been my older brothers, it might have been my dad, or it might have been a gift. Anyway, I think it was a woodworking kit for kids. Could well have been the same as Jamie just described, but I remember there was a hammer. There was a little claw hammer. It had obviously a metal head, but it was only about 2.5, 3 inches across from the face of the hammer to the tip of the claw.
To the tip of the claw.
And it was on a plastic handle, which was no more than 10 inches long. So it's a real kid size. And I seem to remember there being a little tenon saw in there as well, and possibly a few other things. What happened to the full kit, I've no idea, but I know I could go back home and put my hands on the hammer. I know exactly where that is. I didn't really get those kind of things as a kid. What I have got is every tool I ever made and I'm going to put it down as kid, when I was at school and college.
Adolescent. Okay.
So I've still got all of those that I actually made myself, because that was part of the course.
Well, that wasn't actually given to you. You made that for yourself. Then, so.
Yeah, I mean, but that's definitely tools. But the things that were given and gifted, and going back to the Lego thing, I've kind of got a thing for Lego. If you didn't know,
we know.
If you haven't, shame on you. We won't judge, but I've got every single Lego set, piece. All in a box. It all went in a box.
We've heard it all. We've heard it all, Richard. That's fine. Lego.
Even his maker coins are Lego.
Yeah, Richard Morley, Lego.
Yeah, they were actually, weren't they? Honestly, find me an item that isn't more quintessentially maker orientated.
Actually, I do have. Lego. I do own, and I do currently have the first tool I was ever given as a Christmas gift. And Jamie probably knows what it is.
Scroll saw.
It's my scroll saw. I was given this scroll saw when I was living in Fort Myers, Florida, and on McGregor Boulevard. I was living there, and I was probably in 7th grade. And my dad, because I had spent so much time with my dad out in his workshop, felt that I needed a tool, and he bought me a scroll saw for Christmas. And I still have that scroll saw. It's the scroll saw that Jamie's giving me a hard time about in my videos about using. I still have it, and I still use it. It's a POS compared to what today's standards are. But you know what? I still have it, and I love it. I mean, I don't like using it, but I love having it because that's from my dad to me. And, and it does the job when I need to do it.
Must take you ages to scroll saw, like we push your feet on it all the time like that.
It wasn't that old, Jimmy.
What he's got to do is he has to wait for like high tide, build up a good head of water before he opens the sluice gate, and then
he gets a cat on the wheel to get the pressure.
You guys both suck.
That's why he's got so many cats in case one gets tired. He can put the other one on it.
It actually does have a plug on it, but I have to clamp it down, otherwise it will vibrate the entire freaking shop.
Talking about, have you ever heard of a vibro saw? Honestly, don't start. Don't. I know, but don't. Honestly, but honestly, like a scroll saw. But instead, you know how a scroll saw works on, like mechanically, it works on a. There's like the piston action that oscillates through a flywheel.
Right.
This is literally. It works in the same sort of way that the vibrate function on your phone works. Yeah. So so the blade is basically fixed between a set fixed opening, and the whole lot is vibrated. Yeah, but it's done at the same frequency or a lesser frequency than the tensile strength of your skin. So you literally can just push your finger or any part of your skin into the blade, like a normal scroll saw blade, and it just moves. It's got a motion that is not big enough to actually physically cut your skin. It just like gets the skin and moves it up and down on your hand. So it's literally physically impossible to cut yourself on this sword. And it's got Kat's stepdad's got one. It's about the bed is a circle. It's maybe 10 inches in diameter. And it's an aluminium body, and you just turn it on, and the whole thing just goes and kind of leaps around the thing, and you can't cut anything. It's really a kind of a small modelling, very small application thing. It's the noisiest tool you've ever gone for in your life, but it's so cool because it's just so safe. It's noisy, great for kids because you physically, physics, you can't cut your skin on it. It's fascinating.
I still think a scroll saw is a good call because I mean, if a scroll saw injures you, the worst case scenario is you're gonna need a Band-Aid. Anyway,
I know. We have a bit of banter on here, and that's exactly what it is. But I've said to a few friends previously, they're like, I want to get my kids things, or I want to get into making things like I see you make. What's a good thing to get? And I'm like, dude, get a scroll saw.
Absolutely.
Put it on your dining room table, on a mat, connect it up to the house back. Job done.
Especially for a kid. And I'm not talking about necessarily the 12-year-old. I'm talking, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old would appreciate a scroll saw because they would feel cool and they'd be like with daddy. And I mean, it's a thought. Anyway, all right, last question. What would be some great last minute under 20-pound $20 stocking filler gifts for makers? Andy wants to know, and I automatically I know the answer to this, but you guys go ahead. And I don't know that my answer is the answer. I just have a answer. Go ahead.
Go on, Jamie.
Can we go first? Right, I've got a couple of things written down. First one is the obvious: boxes or briefs.
Do we have a few episodes? We thought we'd kind of crossed that bridge. We got past that kind of childish nature, but no, Jamie's in there. Bam! What kind of underpants do you have?
What if I say
tape measure?
It's
what?
Tape measure.
A tape measure.
Yeah.
Clamps.
Oh, for under 20.
Yeah. You can get some cheap ones.
Okay. If they work once, they're worth the money. Go ahead.
Yorkshire grip. Pam Harris's pen blank.
Oh, please.
And if you might, a gentleman would Turner, a butt plug.
A butt plug. On that note,
I'm sorry, I got dared to say it. So
I'm bringing it back to Christmas with my mug. Okay, so we're gonna forget
a Christmassy butt plug.
Yeah. Does it look like a tree?
So literally, this has been going through my head whilst Jamie's been kind of reeling his off. So under 20 quid, maker related gifts. Yeah, that's the brief.
Yeah.
So I think it doesn't matter what the making of choice is for the individual. I don't think it really matters. For me personally, any consumable item, you know, if it's a woodworker, wood glue, you know, people have said before, you have to be careful because, you know, people they get quite, you know, they like their brands, they like their specific things, and yeah, that's true. That's very true. You know, we all have a wood glue of choice. Yeah. We all have an abrasive of choice. We all have a supplier or whatever it is. But actually, sometimes you could hit gold and find another brand that person's not come across, and they're like, oh, that's all right. Oh, you know.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter what it is. That person, you know, if it was me. You know, affiliate links in the description. I genuinely would be.
No, there won't be. There will not be any affiliate links in the description. Just get out of here.
Chris is really struggling with that. The sarcasm.
No, I'm not playing that game. No, go.
Genuinely, a few years ago, Kat's mum and stepdad got me a load of sandpaper for a birthday, Christmas. I can't remember which it was, as a gift, and it wasn't a brand that I would ever have picked ever. But it still got used, and it was still appreciated. And it doesn't matter if it was used the first. Oh, I've got to use my new from such and such. Then there's all super excited about it. At some point, it will get used, and at some point, that person on the receiving end will have not needed to go out and spend their money on that thing that they're going to buy anyway. Yeah. And that, personally, for me, that's amazing. That's great because it's genuinely a good present. It's not because we've all had those. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I'll put that up there somewhere safe, you know. And
you never see it again.
Really?
Right.
It's covered in dust.
Didn't quite hit the mark.
All right. Well, you know what? Before we get to Jamie singing his song, I think that if you're gonna have a little drop in, you know, just a drop in stocking stuffer that you want to give, you know, somebody that likes their shop and wants to make things. I think that a great drop-in would be markers, whether it be a Sharpie or a pencil or an etcher or something. Just something that would, because we're always looking for a pencil the same way we're always looking for our tape measure. You know, it's like, you know, put a marker in the stocking.
It is a good one. A 6-inch stainless steel rule.
Well, you know what? That's a great option as well.
So handy, so handy.
Oh, yeah. You know what, Richard? You're absolutely right. It's absolutely right. But I'm gonna stick with my answer. The answer is markers. And if anybody can tell me I'm wrong about that, then feel free to do so. Until then, pencils and markers and Sharpies, whatever is used for marking in that person's shop, he should have some more of them because he's going to, or he or she is going to need them. Anyway, Jamie,
I could put bends in my beard now. Look,
exactly. You see, Jamie can just stick pens in his beard.
Jamie, the bearded scribble ninja.
Jamie, it's
Cal said beard baubles.
All right, it's time for your Freddie Mercury impersonation. So
it's time for Jamie's page.
Oh.
And speaking of Dale, so Dale on his channel never really had a normal milestone. His milestone was 1,111. Well, Dale was just past that. So
congratulations, Dale.
well done to Dale from Maple Tree Studios.
And he deserves it, and more. And more.
So yeah. There's stickers. I'm not sure if Maker Central's going ahead. I don't think anyone knows any news as of yet. However, if Maker Central is going ahead, or even if it's not, and you still are after stickers, you can get £20 off at checkout by going to makersinternationalpodcast.com/stickers, and follow all the links and all that dib-dab-dob, and get £20 off at checkout for all your sticker needs. So, yes.
Nice.
So, on to my shout out, which I did not open again this week. So let me go back up to God, you two talk a lot.
We can come back to you, Jamie, if you'd like.
Well, actually, there's actually a couple of channels that I want to quickly mention anyway. So,
is Jamie going to?
So one of the channels that I want to mention anyway, is How to Make Everything. Not necessarily. It's not a shout out. It's just a great channel that would be good to check out. He basically is a channel that goes back through history and makes all sorts of tools and foods and probably everything you can think of, out of the ways the old how it was originally done. So yeah, it's a great way of way to see how things were made.
I think your shout out was for Rick Turns, if I remember right.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. I've got it up.
That's
now.
The politest shut up and get to the point I've ever heard in my life.
Oh, we've still got about a minute left anyway. So anyway, not forgetting that I'm doing a premiere in 31 minutes and Caitlin's on 15 minutes after me.
Oh, I haven't we not promote that. Good.
But my shout out is like Chris just said, Rick Turns. He did a Snowfall on Mountain Ash Bowl. It came out absolutely great, and Rick deserves a lot of love. He puts out a weekly video highlighting everybody that does wood turning. So yeah, Rick Turns.
Awesome. He does great work. All right, Richard, what about you?
The reason Jamie couldn't find his shout out because it didn't come up with a picture, it just came up with the link. So I just realised that myself. So good job I remembered. Mine is not maker related. Mine is just a light-hearted, amusing kind of a video that I think anyone can relate to. The video is called "Does Your House Have a Magic Cupboard?" That's all I'm going to say about it. Seriously, if you fancy a giggle, just go and watch the video. You'll love it.
That's by Troy Keane, right?
Yeah.
Troy Keane. All right. Well, cool. My shout out is for I don't think I've ever met this gentleman. I may have been in the same Jamie. You and I may have been in the same building with him in 2016 in Atlanta, but I don't remember actually meeting him. Was with Chopped with Chris.
Yes, I've seen him. He was at Maker Central. And I saw him in Atlanta.
Okay. Well, anyway, first of all, he's my shout out because, hey, great name. Secondly, if you're at all familiar with his channel, then he's a hand tool kind of guy. And while I can't personally relate to that because I'm not a total hand tool kind of guy, I do enjoy his work. And just yesterday, like this would be Saturday for those of you listening on SoundCloud, he put out a video titled "From Log to Dog Sled by Hand and Foot." It's about a half an hour long, but it's a pretty intriguing build that he did. He made it a dog sled for the snow. And anyway, I just thought it was a cool video. So if you have a chance to go check out Chop with Chris, and if you're not currently subscribed, what is wrong with you? And then second of all, go watch the video because I'm sure you'll dig it. Because Chris is pretty cool. He's a pretty nice guy.
Yeah. Richard should like him. He does some great Game of Thrones stuff.
Well, I mean, like I said, I never met Chris, but he really seems to be a sincerely nice guy. So
I don't think I met him at Maker Central, but you were there, Jamie, when we did the giveaway for the prize draw, and he got one of his axes. And I was like, seriously, because the channel's well established and it's fairly well known. And there was this axe, and there's nobody claimed it. I'm like, seriously, nobody wants this. Like, why aren't you here?
Yeah.
And hopefully the winner of that actually claimed it. But yeah, I don't know who.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's it. Done and dusted, gentlemen. Merry Christmas to you, Richard, and Merry Christmas to you, Jamie. Have a great holiday.
And Merry Christmas to everyone in the chat.
Absolutely. And not just Merry Christmas to everyone in the chat, but Merry Christmas to everybody who is listening to this in the future, even if it's after Christmas. I
hope you had a great one.
I'm going to say it in advance because I said, you've got until January the 2nd to say Happy New Year. After that, not allowed.
Unless it's to Richard.
No, not at all. Anyway, that's it because that's the end of the show. Until
in fact, go out of your way to do it.
Until Jamie and I wish him a Happy New Year in August.
Absolutely. Anyway. But until next week when we talk about something else, and as usual, we've no idea what at the moment, you all take care.
Have a great week, everybody, and Merry Christmas.
Take it easy, everybody.